Thank you and good afternoon. Today I will present the results of a survey I hope will elicit some critical. Can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I was saying that I hope will elicit some critical reflection on current information visualization practices in digital humanities web-based dissemination settings. So, as we all know, data in the digital humanities are often very complex, full of uncertainties, very heterogeneous and rich. In this context, information visualization and storytelling often has the role to enhance the presentation and dissemination of complex information. However, it is argued that standard data visualization techniques are not always able to accommodate humanities' complexities, since typically borrowed from fields with different epistemological groundings and therefore clashing with the interpretive and qualitative nature of humanities research and knowledge in general. Some desiderata here emerge from literature. So, for example, to expose the constructedness of this data, so representing ambiguities and uncertainties directly, or by building the representation and visualizations on the basis of interpretive metrics rather than standard metrics. Other suggestions involve engaging users with more reflective and slower visualization experiences, or using storytelling as devices to improve the understanding and the interpretation of complex information. But if we look closer at how these ideas are applied in practice, well, we don't know much about it, since many studies are actually that evaluate information visualization practices are actually related to data journalism, and the few that address digital humanities, yes, they conclude, for example, that uncertainty visualization and narrativity are all but ordinary practices, but are currently limited to specific subfields or context of application and to narrow scope. So, for example, do not address specifically custom visualization methods to address humanities complexities, nor deeper narrative design choices. So our survey tries to broaden the scope of these previous studies, in particular addressing web-based digital humanities projects, targeting the visualization interaction techniques used, accounting also for domain differences, the impact of storytelling in general, so the presence of data-driven narratives and their characteristics, and the use of custom solutions to represent these humanities data complexities, and in general to represent uncertainties and ambiguities. We did that starting by collecting projects from 4 main sources, applying a set of inclusion criteria that led us to a final corpus size of 186 projects that we used to manually compile 2 different data sets based on direct observation and interaction with the visualization system, and by reusing and adapting existing taxonomies and classification schema from literature to build our custom classification framework. The first data set aggregates data at the project level, addressing visualization interaction techniques, the humanities domain involved, the uncertainty representation methods when used, the critical adaptation that are custom visualization solutions that are tailored to specific humanities related contents, and the presence of data-driven narratives and related flow factors intended as elements that actually shape the narrative and affect the reading experience. So we'll skip that. And the second data set actually targets visualization interaction units, meaning a specific choice of visualization techniques coupled with a set of interactive features for each of the 186 projects. So the 2 data sets are actually connected by means of internal IDs. And here we target more specifically visualization interaction techniques, but also narrativity and the primary visualization here, meaning the dominant visualization layout used in context of coordinated views. So I would like to start from narrativity. that we can see has still a low impact, considering both the dissemination context of our analysis and the advantages it is argued to bring to information visualization and communication in general. So as we can see, non-narrative explorative approaches are the vast majority, also impacting strongly those projects called hybrid projects that use visualization in both narrative and non-narrative context. Here, an interesting thing is that when used, narratives are almost always very similar to one another. So mostly based on slideshow that rely on a single visualization technique with a strong linear auto-driven path, reflecting a strong use of storytelling tools like StoryMap.js or Timeline.js, for example, which obviously are very technically convenient tools from a development point of view, but actually come with they normally lack customization, so risking to obscure and inhibit the valorization of the project, since they actually flatten the content of each project to a predefined format. In terms of visualization techniques, we can see that digital humanities are based on map visualizations. They are all over the place. And here we actually expected also more network visualizations, for example, particularly talking about narrativity. We hope that narrativity could act as a tool, a device to unfold the complexities of for example, very dense network configurations and its complexities. But here, narrativity actually does the opposite, so widening this gap between map visualization and network visualization. Map visualization, on the other hand, are very simple to interpret. They support spatial reasoning. We also should consider the importance the spatial dimension has in digital humanities data. Therefore, they are pretty much used, especially considering they are vastly supported by external services and tools, making them very comfort solutions when we talk about visualization in the DH. They are also the most frequent and dominant visualization layout within coordinated views. The interaction techniques, actually, the simplest interactions are the most used. So as we can see here, after the simple basic selection of elements, so the basic highlights, for example, we can see a category of navigation interaction techniques, which are those that are often already available when we embed visualizations like map visualizations, for example. We also spotted that there are a lot of units that do not actually implement any kind of interaction technique at all. More specifically, for almost each interaction category we saw in the slide before, the simplest solution are almost always the most used. Particularly here, we can see the difference between simple highlight, move, or mark interaction technique with a long tail of rare solutions that require more advanced skills or customization effort. So on one hand, as we can see, as we have seen before, the non-narrative explorative approaches are the vast majority, but this exploration is often strictly limited to a very small set of predefined solutions. Interestingly, two domains are frequently using information visualization within our corpus with different dissemination methods. So language and literature, for example, use more explorative approaches based on multiple visualization techniques with a more varied choice of visualization types, while history and archaeology are mostly represented within narrative projects, mostly relying on a single visualization technique and strongly using those map visualization we talked about before. Finally, we found only a small empirical evidence of this uncertainty representation and in general critical approaches for humanities visualizations. In particular, only 3 projects here use both approaches, despite the impact of the theoretical debate around these issues. In terms of representation methods, here too, the simplest techniques are the most used. So the ones that rely, for example, on visualization filters or standard visual variables to identify which data points are certain rather than uncertain are mostly used, while the 2 techniques that we can say are more qualitative techniques are actually very rare. Here, these two projects involved are precisely those two projects we talked about here before, present in custom visualizations, supporting the idea that while these approaches are actually valuable and desirable, they require more customization effort and visualization skills. So we can conclude a few things here, so that, for example, explorative approaches are preferred over narrative approaches. However, they are very limited in terms of interactive affordances, while narrative approaches are actually very similar to one another. So customization is very rare, while the reliance on ready-made solution is actually preferred, at the cost of obscuring the data specificities of our digital humanities projects. In general, the epistemological issues that so great attention within the theoretical debate are almost never addressed in practice. So the risk here is that instead of using this information visualization and storytelling techniques as devices, as interpretive frameworks that are able to disclose and unfold the complexities, we are currently using them as means to oversimplify the information, at least willingly or not. So what we can do actually in practice, two main obstacles are identified in literature to target these issues. The first is the lack of visualization skills by humanities scholars, coupled with a lack of reusable models and methods for representing uncertainty, which are argued to be solvable in a way by the use of the reliance on interdisciplinary collaboration, which we know, however, is not always possible due to many reasons, or by addressing these uncertainties and interpretative phenomena by using those conventional methods we saw before, so using filters or common visualization and visual variables, sorry. The second obstacle actually is the fear of introducing too much complexities within our visualization, causing overwhelming presentation, especially for casual users. A solution is argued to be presenting these uncertainties primarily for domain experts while leaving them on demand for casual users. However, I see this problem as more a problem related to interpretation rather than just a problem of cognitive load. So as a matter of making these uncertainties and complexities more interpretable and understandable rather than just available or not to the public. So under this specific perspective, we are currently trying to address these issues, building a bottom-up approach that starts from very specific and representative case study that is based on at-work attributions data from the Federico Zeri Foundation. From here, we are currently trying to build a data-driven narrative that focuses on the use of interactive solutions on demand to progressively disclose these complexities, represent the uncertainties present in those data, and making them more interpretable in general. From here, we will use these solutions and these results in order to start a process of generalization. So we want to generalize the requirements and the research questions we gathered into broader visualization tasks to inform a sort of catalog of visualization interaction models that can address more general visualization problems that can be common in different humanities domains. And I thank you for your attention.
Again, perfectly on time. Any questions? Yeah. I was about to say, when you do have a question, please introduce yourself so that people get to know each other slowly. I guess everyone knows Andrea.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you for your presentation. It was very beautiful as well. Was also interesting. Just to say, one thing that sometimes I think developers of platforms might struggle with is visualizing Kafka, if you want to say it out loud. May become very difficult to implement unless there is like a very well-known knowledge about how visualization technique works. Do you think that it can be done in a way similar to like libraries like JS or others for content humanities without having every single time to develop a new framework or a new version to build visualization tools?
Thank you for your question. Actually, this is a very interesting point. Well, the best solution is always to engage with deeper design process that involves also the presence of domain experts in visualization and some mediator, which can be a digital humanist. So I will say that the best option is always customization, but I know that it's not always possible. Therefore, what I see is the lack of studies that actually target this problem by introducing some sort of methods to address this kind of specificities that actually can be very common across different domains if we talk about more abstract visualization problems. So I will say that I don't have a solution, but that I see the point, and I am considering it for developing my PhD projects actually. So I don't know if it answers your questions in some way, but yeah, I don't have a ready solution for this kind of problem yet. Thank you.
Squeeze in a question myself. I was struck by the difference between the literary scholars and the historians.
Yeah,
Struck but not surprised, because it triggered with me a question about audience and the goal of the visualization. So you looked at this enormous list of projects. Did you come across a project that explained who the audience, their target audience is, or what the goal of the visualization is, and did you find any difference in it, the difference in choosing for narrativity or exploration?
Thank you for your question, and I will say yes. There are some issues here, but to answer quickly, yes. So narrativity is in general preferred when we are trying to address both domain experts and casual users, of course. But we actually relied on a more empirical approach rather than, for example, documentation descriptions, because we actually find some kind of problem in addressing which is the audience we are pointing to within those projects. Since, for example, I found some projects that wrote in the documentation that the project itself was thought for both casual users and domain experts. However, I wasn't actually able to navigate the website itself because the navigation menu list was actually using some very specific terminology that I wasn't able to understand. So we had this problem of understanding the target users because we could not rely on what the developers said about the target users for this kind of issue. So that's a tricky question in some way. Yeah. But I will say yes, the ones that integrate some narrative approach are tend to be more directed to more casual users and expert users, like together, rather than just to domain experts. Thank you.
Any other questions? Are there anything? Okay, can you read?
Yeah. Silvia Corbara asks, thank you for your interesting presentation. One question if there's time. Do you think PhD scholars should also consider strategies to attract users and engage wider audiences, in addition to designing projects that are easy to navigate and user-friendly, or is that beyond their role?
Thank you for your question, actually. That's very interesting too. I will say that I don't have a really to the point answer, but I think it's very important to address the best audience as possible, always, since one role of, when we are talking about, for example, cultural heritage projects, I think that one added value is to reach more audience as possible. So typically, it's not a role of digital humanists per se to engage in district communication related issues, but it will be nice that some more knowledge and skills towards this kind of competencies will be added in order to make those projects more engaging. So thank you.
Okay, so let's thank Tommaso again.